Okay, so at this point in your drawing, you have your eye very lightly drawn in contour. You have not putting any eyelashes. We've not put any eyebrows or anything. We're leaving all of that hair off of there. We need to shade our skin first, and then we'll apply those. What I've done is I've kind of lightly outlined my eyelashes only because if you look at my photo, I have a really dark section here. So I just kind of added that in to help me when I do start to shade to realize where I am. I have my Surrealist sections here already lightly drawn out. So we're going to talk about how to work around your drawing and shade your eye at the same time. There's a few things that I need you to understand about parts of your eye. You have a pupil, you have an iris, which is the colored part of your eye, and this iris tends to have these interesting textures and lines and patterns inside of it. And so this is something that you might end up adding to your iris as you work around some of those surrealist elements. The other thing that I want you to recognize is that you have a water line. Okay, this actually is the edge of your skin. This section here is always really, really bright white, and this is actually where your eyelashes end up growing out of. So when you're drawing and shading today, I want to make sure you all have this here, but then you need to make sure that your little water line is also lightly drawn in as well, because this section is what actually is going to make your eye look more 3D, and this little piece here is going to be a highlight. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is, before you get started, I want you to do a quick value scale. And if you remember, a value scale is simply pressing and lifting. Smooth, smooth, smooth transition. Press and lift. You notice that I've got dark to light and I faded it to white. No tornadoes to get it lighter. Dark to light. You can go ahead and pause the video now and practice 3 quick value scales. Okay, once your value scales are complete and you're comfortable with that transition, you guys are going to start shading. Now, I've got my eye sitting right next to me, my photograph eye, and I'm going to look at these value placements as I start. So up in the top corner, I can see that this is like a gray color compared to some of the lighter areas in my eye. We're going to go ahead and start shading really lightly in the top left corner. That way I'm not dragging my hand across my shading. So I always like to come at the top. I don't want to start with the details at the bottom because I want you to get comfortable seeing your skin. Your skin's going to be fairly easy. So let's try to get a little bit of shading going up here at the top. I'm holding my pencil at the tip of the end of my pencil and not here, so I'm not pressing really, really hard. If I hold it down here, I tend to push hard. I don't want that. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to go really, really slow, small circles, and I'm going to continue to look at my photograph. And I'm seeing it's a little lighter as I get down towards my eye. We do not, on the first day, want to put really, really dark darks in there. We can always make it darker. It's very, very hard to make it lighter. So I'm going to be very smooth in the transition that I have here. I've already marked this out. This is the actual eye lid, the fold of my eye. And when I look at my photograph, I can tell that that fold is darker above the line that I drew. So I'm going to press a little harder. My drawing is very, very small so that I have time to show you how to shade. This is going to take you a little while in person because yours is quite larger than the drawing that I have in front of me right now. So you're noticing that I'm making it a little darker here as it is in my photo. So I want you to kind of go around your skin first. I'm going to skip over. You should be continuing to move through. I'm going to skip over, and just for the sake of the demonstration, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to talk to you about how to kind of go around some of your surrealist objects. Do not shade these objects yet. What I want you to do is work on the actual eye itself. If you want to see, I've got a real eye here that's already been drawn. So you can see that I've left the water line highlighted here. You can see that I've shaded underneath. You can see how the change in the shadows are happening here around the fold that I started already in your demonstration. You can see the highlights are here. This happens by just changing your pressure and changing your pressure in the right spots. And how do you know where those spots are? They're on your photograph, okay? So this is where I'm going to start. I've got these crazy hands coming out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade my skin around those. So I'm going to go ahead and work my waterline here. And we're going to really make some educated decisions. The fact that there's probably a cast shadow underneath my fingers. So I'm going to press a little darker there. However, I'm still looking at my photo. I'm going back and forth from my photo because I can see it's a little lighter here. So I'm matching the values. I also have my grid here, and your grid might be on here a little light. So you should be able to kind of see where these values sit. I'm going to go around my Surrealist little additions here. But I'm still looking at my photo, and I've got these really interesting value changes here, right where those fingers are. So I'm going to try to just maybe make it a little darker in some of those spots just to help get my transitions there. This is a water droplet, and so that one's probably going to also need a cast shadow. Shadows take the shape of the form. So this water droplet shadow is going to be also rounded underneath because it's rounded here. As long as all of your cast shadows are going the same direction. So if I want the shadow on the bottom left, this cast shadow should be on the bottom left on all of the little sections of objects here. So press and lift around there. And then I'm looking back at my photo and I see right in that spot, I've got a little change in skin. So I'm going to go here. Again, you are shading around your surrealist sections, but you're also checking for open skin areas to look at those values. Okay, so that's how you're going to kind of shade your skin around. Now, up in your iris, the same thing. I've got my droplets coming here, but I also have real eye parts showing. So I can see that it's dark and light, chunks and spaces here. So I'm just going to mimic that. I'm going to see the values from my photo, and I'm going to shade the real eye parts around the surrealist sections. Once you get that going, we can come back and we can talk about how to shade the individual surrealist items a little bit better. You are not pressing very, very hard. I want a highlights to be shown. You should have paper white sections. You should have light grays and dark grays. We should not have any blacks yet. Blacks come towards the end of the project. We can always make it darker, but we can't make it lighter. I am going to press a little hard here, and you might be thinking, oh, Mrs. Braun, that's black. It is pretty dark, but it's not as dark as I can get it. So I am going to press a little darker here. And I'm continuing to look at my photo, and I can see all these splotchy sections. So that's what I'm trying to add in right now. And again, staying around these water droplets that I am wanting to add. Okay. I'm going to skip around again, and I'm going to talk to you about your cornea. Your cornea is the white part of your eye. This part is glassy. This is where your tears sit. And so we always have these crazy highlighted shadows here. So what I want you to see is the fact that this is an actual sphere. Your eye is a sphere that's sitting inside of your skin. And so what you're going to do when you hit the cornea section is that there is always a cast shadow from your skin onto the cornea. But it's also very, very light because this cornea is white in person. Very, very light. So I'm always throwing cast shadow in here, but I'm not shading it dark. Very, very light. Just a very subtle shadow to get that skin going. And how do I know where the shadow is? Because I can see that there's a change here on my photo. There's a change here. So I'm going to shade here as well. Press and lift, press and lift. Very, very light. Barely touching the paper. Just enough to notice. There's a highlight right here on my cornea, and I can see that. So I'm going to work around the highlight. And what I've done in the past is I have also taken an eraser and made that highlight even brighter. And then I'll even touch it up with my pencil next to it, which is kind of a cool thing. So you can see how my eye is starting to look a little glassy. The last thing I want to leave you with is your pencil needs to constantly be sharp. And so we are going to really, really, really crisp up those edges of your sections and shapes. So you're noticing that this area right here is really fuzzy. When it's fuzzy like that, it looks like your cornea is blending into your eyelid, which does not happen in real life. They're completely separate sections, okay? So we want to make sure that we are crisping that up, and that might be something that you do as you go for sure, but that's also something that we need to make sure we do at the very end as well, because it's going to get kind of smudgy, okay? That already looks more 3D in that section. Same as down here. I've put my values here, but at the same time, it's fuzzy. And so I'm really going to take a super, super sharp pencil. I'm not outlining. I'm dusting a darker value right up against that edge. That way, my little fingers down here are actually standing out from my skin in that spot. They're not doing that over here. So that's a little bit of demos in all of your places. You guys can stop and start this video as needed, and you're going to use this as a constant reference.